All right, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents. I just want to take the time because I've been silent about certain things, and normally, you know me, I don't know how to be silent about anything. But I've been silent on a couple of things that I've been observing from in here that has really caused me some stress. First, I was just looking at this television show called The Talk. It's like, no, was it The Talk or was it The Real? I think it's The Real. It was on Fox. And they were talking about the Breonna Taylor situation. And all the other channels have been telling everybody and their grandfather to get out there and vote. And they say, and you got to look at the person's background and history to see what type of demeanor they have and what their personality is like and what their objectives are. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, the politician is a politician. They all lie. Let's talk about one politician who was the Attorney General for Kentucky. Or was it Kentucky where Breonna was? That Attorney General got up on television and said that they were doing an investigation and that they would announce their findings as soon as the investigation was complete. Well, how come they didn't announce their findings as soon as the investigation was complete? How come they waited until after they impaneled a grand jury, not telling anybody that they were impaneling a grand jury, but they waited until after they impaneled the grand jury? Do you know why they did that? Because they didn't want anyone to know that they were putting a couple of charges before the grand jury. And that was endangerment. And it wasn't endangerment of Breonna Taylor. See, they didn't accuse them of murder. They did not accuse them of involuntary manslaughter. They didn't bring up any of those charges. They did the endangerment. Now, I was watching court TV, and yes, I watch TV from time to time these days, but I was watching court TV in particular last night, and I caught the Breonna Taylor story. And they talked about the grand jury. And they talked about how the officers and their supervisor testified that the supervisor said that the officers were to knock, that even though they had a no-knock warrant, that he was advising them to knock. Isn't that amazing? Didn't say that 5 months ago, didn't say that 4 months ago, didn't say that 3 months ago, didn't say that 2 months ago, no. Just said it before the grand jury. Told them he advised them to knock. Okay, so why keep highlighting for the last 6 months that they had a no-knock warrant if he advised them to knock? Yeah, if he advised them to knock, then they would have said this at the very beginning, but you notice that didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, there is a witness who says that, yes, she heard the officers announce themselves. Okay, next part of the story, I want you all to pay attention. This was on court TV. This was the testimony that they said was being proffered. Yeah, I use the word proffered. Pay attention. Anyway, they said that these officers were standing at the door. They breached the door, and as they breached, only one officer entered the apartment. Ladies and gentlemen, when you breach an apartment, only one officer doesn't enter. That's a lie. That they would sit up there and just allow one officer to enter. But go back and listen to their story. This is what they said. That officer entered and immediately was shot by Breonna Taylor's boyfriend because he and Breonna Taylor were standing at the end of the hallway. He was standing there holding his gun, and she was standing to the left of him. I want all of you to pay attention. I would love for what I heard on court TV was an actual accounting of what was told to the grand jury. And yes, the family can get a copy of the grand jury transcripts. But if that was the actual account that the officers gave, that they entered the apartment and Breonna was standing next to her boyfriend and her boyfriend shot, and they returned fire. Pay attention. Every story I've heard for the last 6 months was Breonna Taylor was in her bed. The autopsy report will show whether she was standing or lying when she was shot. The autopsy report will show that. Just like the young man here in California who the sheriff said he was riding his bike on the wrong side of the street, and they were pulling him over for that. Yeah, right. And then they shoot him, and the autopsy report showed that he was shot several times in the back while he was already on the ground. It's not the only case where they show that a person was shot several times after they were already down. The autopsy report will show whether or not she was standing or lying when they shot her. You go back and listen to their testimony, and they're saying, according to court TV, that she was standing next to her boyfriend when they shot back. That's a lie. Now, here's the problem. Lying to a grand jury is worse than lying to a regular jury. The penalties is still jail time. These officers, if they lied to the grand jury, that's perjury. Then it's conspiracy to commit perjury. You bring in not only the district attorney, because he should have caught that, because he's the one presenting the evidence to the grand jury, and you bring in that supervisor who lied and said that he told them to knock. You'll see that there's no documentation showing that he told them to knock when exercising that no-knock warrant. That's the first thing. My hope is that the attorney and the family gets wind of this information, because I haven't heard anybody on TV, the news, or anybody talking about the fact of whether she was lying down or sitting up. If she was standing up, that's even worse. Okay, because I don't think she's going to continue to stand there and get shot at. She would eventually have to fall to the floor. So why is she being shot so many times? Now, from what I understood, there may have been some shots that went into her that did not go from the same position, in other words, from the front. But that being said, and I don't believe that she was asleep. I need all of you to understand, the police breached the door. The husband is protecting himself. The boyfriend, he is not going to let her stay asleep while he goes after whoever's breaking into the house. He's going to do like you, your grandmama, your sister, your brother, your uncle, niece, cousin, nephew would do. He's going to say, hey.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
He's going to put his hand over his mouth and shh, nobody's in the house. Okay, he's going to say something, but he ain't going to just let her stay asleep. If he did, then he don't love her. So, I'm not saying she was asleep, but if she was lying in her bed when they came in and she was not standing in a hallway like the officer said, they lied. The pictures from the scene will show where she was, where she got shot. And then I just heard today that the police told the mother, when the mother came to the home, that their daughter had been taken to the hospital and that she was still alive when she was still lying in the house dead. Please. Okay. Just thought I'd speak up on that. There is another point I was bringing to someone's attention, and this is off subject. This is a different subject. I've been watching a commercial. A particular commercial comes on all the time. Because I do binge watching of NCIS, Los Angeles. Yes, I've gotten into NCIS, said I wasn't going to watch a single episode until I had this opportunity. Now I'm watching NCIS. There's a Brinks commercial. Brinks, the armored car company, they have their own debit card. So they are a bank. Because only banks can issue debit cards. Shh, don't tell nobody. All right. That commercial has one guy who he looks Hispanic, looks Latin, but can't tell, but pretty close. And the other individuals on there is a husband and wife who appear to be husband and wife. And they have a little child in the background, and they're getting their groceries from the supermarket. And they talk about how with their Brinks debit card, they can now manage their finances even better. Excuse me. I told someone today that was probably the most racist of commercials I've seen in quite some time. Now, a lot of other people wouldn't see it. They wouldn't get it. Okay, so let me explain to you what's going on. When slavery was abolished and they were just ending slavery, the number one gripe was that you couldn't give blacks money because they wouldn't know how to manage their money. They wouldn't know how to handle their money. Which is why there was a very difficult time giving money to blacks. They bartered with them. They traded things with them, but they didn't give them money. Interesting, ain't it? Because they couldn't manage their affairs. The same thing was said during the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I grew up in the 70s having people say those things about people in my presence. Okay? So when I see a commercial that's run by a company like Brinks, and it has a black couple talking about how without Brinks they wouldn't be able to manage their affairs as well, excuse me, I take kindly to that. Now, I keep my mouth shut for the most part about stuff like this because, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I am neutral. I don't take sides. I don't take sides on any story. I stand on the side of the truth, and I can say that with all honesty. I can care less about all the lies. I know that the officers lied because if they truly did, upon entering that apartment, have only one officer enter, that means they didn't follow protocol. Because when you're serving a warrant, one officer doesn't just go in by himself. That makes no sense. And then another officer is shooting from outside, just firing his gun, and that they want to get him. His name happens to be Brett too. But anyway, they want to get him for negligence. Yeah, fine, get him for negligence. But let's talk about the two officers who entered a person's apartment, whom they knew that the guy whom they were looking for was not there. Why? Because they arrested him earlier that day. See, when he got arrested, it would have showed up on their system that he was arrested because there was a warrant for his arrest. So it would have showed up on his system. That warrant was canceled at that time. Shh, don't tell nobody. Do not tell nobody. The moment he was arrested, that warrant was canceled. Do not tell nobody that because nobody's going to talk about that. These are the lies that they're telling people, and nobody's looking at the details. Ladies and gentlemen, stop believing all these stories. I mean, eventually we'll talk about the economy. We'll talk about how they're getting ready to go to a digital currency. We'll talk about that eventually. But that's not important right now. What's important is a lot of stories are being told. And you're being told what the answer is. They're not allowing you to come to a conclusion on your own. You're being told what the conclusion of the matter is. Okay. Stop letting somebody dictate how you think. Black lives matter. Black lives don't matter, people. Those are not black people in that line. Nobody else can promote, and again, I can care less about race, but nobody else can promote another person's rights better than they can. So if Black Lives Matter truly was a movement for black people, then why don't I see black people out there marching? Oh, there's black people marching there. Marching. Nope, sorry. I've been watching. I have been watching. And I'm seeing very little of that in the mix. I just wrote up to 3 different courts letting them know that it was impossible. Somebody said this to me before, and I didn't get it. So it's impossible for someone who was quote-unquote black to be racist. They can be prejudiced. They can discriminate against people, but they can't be racist. Why is that? Because no matter where you go in this world, black people are the only people who are hated because of the color of their skin. No other group of people can say that. It doesn't matter what country they're from. It doesn't matter what religion they're from. They are disliked by individuals due to the color of their skin. No, I'm not saying they're disliked by everybody. No, but they're the only people whom can have that title that they're discriminated against because of the color of their skin, i.e. racism. See, they don't hate anyone because of the color of their skin. Well, you say, well, some black people call white people devils, Farrakhan. Anyway, if that is the case, can Farrakhan and other people who do that be racist? No, because they're not referring to all white people. They're referring to a particular class of white people. Now, when I say white people, I'm not talking about the color of skin. Neither is Farrakhan. Am I a fan of Farrakhan? No, I'm not. I personally believe he had a hand in someone.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Known as Malcolm, but that's my opinion. Sorry. I know this is going to stir some people up, and it's going to cause people to think. It's going to cause conversation. We're going to talk. We'll continue this in just a second. I'm going to add a little bit more to this, and I'll let you all go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on in our world today. You have people on lockdown, so they don't have anything better to do, and I really mean that. Most of them are sitting at home and they're trying to find things to do, getting on the internet, and then they'll go to websites and they'll view this information and that information. Now I'm going to segue just for a second. That's right, I said segue. The websites for SATCOM and its sister companies are down right now. That is my fault. Okay, literally, yes, from here, I did that. And I'm not joking. That is my fault. It will be up in a day and a half. We found the download folder with all of the downloads that we had, the files that we told everybody about that they could just go and get debt collection and how to correct your debt and how to file this and file that and sample motions this and sample motion that. We lost our document section over about a year ago. Well, I had a backup copy, but because my backup copy was on one of 4 hard drives, one of the hard drives being completely fried for whatever reason, the other 3 hard drives was a total of 10.5 gigabytes. Oh no, 10.5 gigabytes, 10.5 terabytes worth of information. See, we had 2 4-terabyte hard drives and one 2.5 terabyte hard drive. Or was it 2.0? Yeah, one 2.0 terabyte hard drive. So they had to go through the hard drive to find the file because I forgot what I named it. So we found the download folder. We have those files. They will be up on the net soon. We had also had one of the former individuals who was a part of the organization, who is no longer part of the organization, delete a lot of the...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
A lot of the emails that were essential. We don't delete emails in my organization. We keep a copy of all documents. As I told you guys before, documentation is everything. So we have a copy of those emails, and they will be up on our site so that we can keep our files together. We will make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. So yes, we are aware that the site is down. It is not the fault of any sinister organization working for the government, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, or any of those other groups out there who think that they're a giant cabal who've interfered. Now, we do know that they're the ones who deleted the files in the first place. But, again, not defeated. The site may be down, but it's not defeated. So just wanted to let you guys know that. As I mentioned, there is a great deal of things going on right now. There's one story after the next, and people don't know what to believe, but they want to choose a side. They want to be Democrat. They want to be Republican. They think that if we choose a Democrat this time, oh God, it will be much better. Happy days are here again. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Okay, that's what they think if they go out there and vote. As one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't vote. I don't encourage anybody to vote. I don't discourage it either. People, do what you do. I don't care. It ain't got nothing to do with me because they thought Barack Obama, when he got elected, he was going to change everything for black people. Black people were going to be sitting up there getting their 40 acres and their mule. Reparations was coming right around the corner. And they didn't realize that he could not do a thing while he was in office, which is exactly why he didn't. He didn't go after no causes. He didn't talk about how terrible it is that so many people of color were in jail and how disproportionate the system was towards them. You didn't see him bringing up any information like that because he could not. But now they want to keep you all divided. Now they want to keep everybody going at each other. They want you to pick a side. Why? Where in any documentation does it require you pick a side? Cliff, look at the contract known as the Constitution. Now, everybody, the one thing I ask people is, do you have any constitutional rights? And they say yes. No, none of you have constitutional rights. You ain't never had a constitutional right a day in your life. Because the Constitution did not bestow a right on any person, ever. You don't believe me? Go back and look. Go look at the Declaration of Independence first. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Truths. Well, what is the truth? That, according to them, all men are created equal. Now, technically, only one man was created. Everyone else was procreated. But anyway, all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Well, those unalienable rights are yours. They're yours by birth. They're yours by heritage. They're yours by inheritance. They're yours by right. The Constitution didn't give you those rights. The Constitution only secured those common law rights. That's why they're called constitutionally secured rights. Constitution, you don't have constitutional rights. You have rights that are secured by the Constitution. So they can't pay attention. They cannot suspend unalienable rights. They don't have the authority. There was no document on this planet. None of you can waive your right to due process. None of you. You cannot waive your right to life. Do you understand? Those two are guarantees that cannot be eradicated by some signing of some paper. You cannot waive away something that is a fundamentally sound maxim of law. Due process is guaranteed under every circumstance. There's not one circumstance in existence in the so-called society of America where you can waive your right to due process. People say treason. Nope. Treason, you still get due process. Murder, still get due process. Okay? So once people start understanding these basic and simple things and stop allowing themselves to be so manipulated by this side or that side, the right or the left, the up or the down, the sideways and the unsideways, life gets a whole lot better. Stop listening to the news tell you what the story is. Stop listening to people tell you or speak as to something being a fact when they provide no proof. It just, look, a lot of this stuff makes no sense to me either, especially with these idiots talking about Corona this and Corona that and COVID-19 this and COVID-19 that. Too many stupid things are going on. Okay? Too many stupid things are going on. So when I say, as all of you be safe, do your research. Don't just go to this side or that side. Verify the information. Don't just pull the information just because it's on the internet and then run with that. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean a thing. Anybody can put something on the internet. So verify and document the information. We got people who literally are lying all the time. Politicians are lying all the time. Trump, many people think Trump is lying. He's not lying. He is purposely saying the things he's saying because he knows the controversy will bring. But nobody's paying attention. So let me tell you Trump's strategy, because it's obvious to those who understand a little bit about psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, the more you say someone's name, or the more you make a phrase or a statement regarding something, like go ask anyone, just ask somebody the question out of the blue. Hey, who bombed the World Trade Centers? And watch them tell you. They'll say that they say this or they say that, and they'll actually name something or someone. They won't say, no, the World Trade Centers weren't bombed. Planes flew into them. Yes, we know there were bombs, according to the video. There were little bombs exploding as they were falling, but we're not talking about that. Asking the question, who bombed the World Trade Center, is a specific question, and everybody else will start naming a group who bombed it. But according to the news, it wasn't bombed. That's what I'm trying to say. They keep saying something over and 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 over again. It becomes true. Why? Because that's all people know. It's what they keep hearing over and over and over again. So what does Trump do? He says things intentionally that he knows is not accurate. Not that it's a lie, but he knows it's not accurate. He's doing that on purpose. Why? Because right after he says it, everybody's going to talk about him. So when they go and they do that ballot thing, they see the name Trump, and they will check that name because they're more familiar with that name than they are some name about some, what's his name, Joe who? Some of you haven't thought about it, but when you think about it and you pay attention, how many times do you hear Trump's name being spoken throughout the day, either on TV or in passing conversations with others? And then notice how many times you hear that other name, or that whatever that man was that was running with Barack Obama. See, whenever you talk about that other man, you don't have a lot to say at all, because his name is unfamiliar. But not Trump. Trump has a brand now, and he's marketing his brand, and he's doing a good job. So again, stop being manipulated. Stop letting these people tell you a story. I mean, because they got that show that it came out, I forgot which original channel it came out, but Tell Me a Story. That show right there, that's what they're doing to you all. They're telling you a story. because that's what the Matrix does. The Matrix gives you a story line, and you buy into it. And next thing you know, you become part of that story, and you carry on the narrative. All right, that was all I wanted to say. I really, like I said, had a lot, especially with Breonna Taylor. Those of you who are worried about me being here, trust me, I am okay for the moment. Okay? Like I told you, I knew about this before it happened. I'm not trying to get out. Eventually, I'm going to put forth the paperwork necessary, not to get out, but to enforce our documents. I'm going to briefly talk about this, and I'm going to let you guys go because I know I'm running out of time. We've had several appeals regarding my arbitrations and several other arbitrations that are filed with the court at Washington that nobody's responded to. The other side has not put in a reply response, nor has in a lawsuit that two sets of lawyers. So when I say sets of lawyers, these are law firms that are getting together and bringing lawsuits against me. I've responded to each one. Do you know that nobody's responded back to my counterclaim? Now, what I will be doing is all of the documents that I filed in court, whether it be arbitration or otherwise, responses or lawsuits, I'm going to put online so that all of you will be able to see what I've been putting in. But like Thomas Clark Nelson, I will say the same thing. They do not respond to me when I put something on the record. You'll get words like denied. Ladies and gentlemen, I put affidavits on the record. You can't deny an affidavit. And I document that Jehovah, the only true God, is the first and original official notary. Why? Because in Genesis, the 15th and 16th chapter, and the 22nd chapter, look at that 16th chapter, like 16th chapel anyway, he swore by himself. Paul says in the book of Hebrews, the 6th chapter, that he swore by himself because there was no one greater that he could swear by, i.e., he notarized his own statement. So everything I do is sworn by and before the true God. Why? Because who can challenge my notary? They can't tell me that some man who's been appointed by some other man, who are all supposed to be equal, is more superior to the God that I serve. All of my stuff is on affidavit, because an unrebutted affidavit stands true. Well, no one has rebutted a single affidavit that I put in there. Now, I've had some attempts of people trying to rebut affidavits, especially in the system that I'm in right now, because they're now starting to understand the power of an affidavit. Yes. Everybody should have been sticking to affidavits from day one, but they got so far away from it because they didn't understand the power of an affidavit and how to enforce your affidavit. Well, look at all the contracts, people. They're all affidavits. That's why no court can deny it.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
They can't cancel it. They can't get rid of it because all of the contracts are affidavits.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
You gain something from me every single time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gents, thank you for your time. Have a very good day.